Plainly, I don't think it's possible to argue there were great problems with the way regulation was actually carried out, which allowed what happened in the last year to happen. How do you think the world should go about redesigning the regulatory system, and are you worried that we're going to end up with a swing too far in the pendulum towards over-regulation?
Well, we probably will. The problem is, people like Alan Greenspan would never let the market work. Every time people would get into trouble, Greenspan, who claimed to be a big market advocate, would say, no, don't let the market work. Save my friends. Oh, my goodness, so-and-so is going bankrupt. We got to bail them all out. So for 15 years, under Greenspan and now Bernanke, they would not let the market work. Had they let long-term capital management fail back in 1998, we wouldn't have these problems now, I assure you. Lehman Brothers would have been smashed. Goldman Sachs, Bear Stearns would have been smashed. We wouldn't have these problems now. That only happened because every time they turned around, they propped these guys up, gave them more money, and that's why we have the problem. So yes, and now of course they're all saying, well, it's not my fault. It's not my fault this happened, We should have had more regulation, or we should have known, blah, blah, blah. It is their fault, but they won't take the blame. But now, of course, they're going to blame it on other people and cause more regulations, and it'll wind up being worse. Remember, the Depression in the 30s was because they tried to do things they shouldn't have done. I hope it doesn't get to that, but if Mr. Obama's serious about protectionism and taxing capital, it could.
But to get over the problems that have been created for us by that long era of the Greenspan put and now the Bernanke put, it sounds as though you're arguing we need to allow some more big institutions to fail.
We haven't let any fail yet.
One.
We let one fail. Why didn't they let Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac? I mean, I was short Fannie Mae, and they should have let it fail. Go zero. AIG, they should have let it fail. They should have let all of these guys fail, and we would clean out the system, making the same mistake the Japanese made in the 90s. They wouldn't let anybody fail. They had zombie companies and zombie banks, and you know the rest of the story. The Japanese still talk about the 90s as the lost decade. The Japanese stock market is 80% below where it was 18 years ago. I mean, because they would never let anybody fail to clean out the system. That's the way it's supposed to work. The way the system is supposed to work, people get into trouble. And the competent people then take over the assets from the incompetent people, and then you start over from a strengthened base, and you build again. This time what they're doing is they're taking the assets away from the competent people, giving them to the incompetent people, and saying to the incompetent, okay, now you can compete with the competent people with their money. I mean, this is terrible economics. This is outrageous economics, and you're weakening the whole system.
Now, obviously, with people worried about a recession, the great concern at the moment is fighting deflation. Almost all the world central banks now seem to be concerned about that. Does that create inflationary fears down the line, do you think?
See, you know as well as I do, throughout history, when you've had gigantic amounts of money created, it's always led to rising prices eventually, and prices going up of raw materials, commodities, and everything else. It's always worked that way. Sure, prices are down now, but this is because of the forced liquidation that's going on, nothing more. And coming out of this, and by the way, John, this is the first time in world history that I know of where every government in the world and every central bank in the world are printing money and spending gigantic amounts of money. Before you had isolated cases, Zimbabwe, whoever it happened to be. This time you've got the whole world doing it. So this is going to lead to much, much higher prices. Don't sell your gold, don't sell your sugar, don't sell your cotton, because prices are going to be much, much higher in a few years.
And you're arguing that by the time we know we've beaten deflation, we've won the battle against deflation, it will be too late to fight inflation.
We're not going to beat the battle of deflation. I mean, all of that is wasted time. This is just an artificial forcing down of prices because of forced liquidation. This is artificial, that we're going to come out of this with a lot of prices going higher and higher and higher. You know, in the 30s, they fought the wrong battle, and it turned into a depression. Milton Friedman showed that pretty clearly. This time, they're fighting the wrong battle, too. They're taking the wrong approach. Hold on to your real assets, because they're going to be much, much higher. That's the only place where you're going to make a lot of money in the next few years.
Thank you very much for talking to us today. This has been View from the Markets, and I've been talking to Jim Rogers, investor and author of Investment by Cash.